Hi, YouTube fans. This is Matt, a post-April 6th YouTube channel. I am standing right outside of Tattered Cover Bookstore. Let's take a look. Well, that's the very best video image I can get because the sign, the sign is so high up off the ground, and I mean very high, probably over 40 feet easily. Well, I am sure enjoying Christmas, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to a place that I've filmed about before, but I cannot do any filming while I'm in there. And where it is CIGAR's on 6th, on East 6th Avenue. And I'm going to go get me a cigar, because I really tell you, I'm really upset that Adam the Woo has suddenly died. I mean, he and I weren't close friends, but I did feel like I knew him through watching hundreds of his video clips, and I mean hundreds, probably more like over 300. At least it feels that way anyhow. And Adam the Woo is deceased. The Lord called him home. He's passed away. Yeah, he's gone. And well, stay tuned, there's going to be one. Well, now I have returned, and I had to step away from the area because there's an Asian guy, and man, is he really cuckoo. He's pretty whacked out on drugs. Looks to me like psychedelics, LSD, or who knows what. Anyways, while I was inside of I almost said Tattered Cover, that's not true. Twist and Shout Records, I bought this. Yes. It's a DVD about Jimi Hendrix live at Woodstock 1969 festival. It's not just another Woodstock concert, it's the original Woodstock concert that made the term Woodstock a household name for over 50 years. And a lot of you will know what I'm about to say, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you this anyways. Woodstock, New York. Yes, there is a Woodstock, New York. However, the actual Woodstock Festival 3-day concert that was Woodstock Festival itself was not in Woodstock. It was in Bethel, New York. And I believe Bethel, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure this is true. I believe Bethel, New York is near Walk Hill, New York. And I'm also pretty sure that the distance between New York City and Bethel, New York is over 60 miles. It's quite a drive. But anyways, I will do some more filming later on. Please stay tuned. There's going to be some really good entertainment here. I'll do the best I can. And I also have in mind to show some, or do some filming of some houses that have really good Christmas decorations on the outside. So just stay tuned. Well, I just finished smoking a nice cigar at CIGAR's on 6th. As you can tell, I just showed some condominiums or apartment buildings that are tall, that are, oh, probably over a block away from where I'm at. And there's some more good Christmas decorations to see. So just stay tuned. There's going to be more. Oh, look at this building. That may not look much, but to me, with that greenish lighting, that's the Christmas spirit as far as I'm concerned. Look at this building. And that big building over there. Oh boy. That ain't the best I've ever seen, but it's pretty good. I'm on the other side of Denver, Colorado. Yeah. I'm in good old Denver 80237. Nearby where I live, this is what it looks like. Yeah. Look at that tree. Hi, Isabella. How you doing? Is it nice to see me home? Huh? Is it nice to see me home? It sure is nice to see you, you lovable kitty. Yeah. Well, I'm finally back. It's nice to see some new people and some very loyal Facebook subscribers and people who've been the fans of Post April 6 for quite some time. I changed my shirt from the way I was looking before this part of the vlog started because I had to change my shirt. What happened was when I was eating at Chop Shop Urban Eatery, there was a very delicious grilled cheese sandwich that when I took the first bite out of it, a big chunk came out and went thump right on my shirt. I mean, this area was, in this area where I'm circling with my finger, there was a fairly big stain. And after I was done eating it, I went into the men's room and I used one of those disposable hand wiping towels, and I tried to rub it out, but that did no good. Well, the really good part about this vlog is about the story idea that I'd like to read to you now. It's a story that takes place January 3rd, 1979. And where the story takes place is on the 5300 block. It's in the 5390s. I'm not going to say the exact address because I don't want to have a major complaint filed against me. And it's at the tail end of the 5390s, and it's just before it changes into the 5400s. And it's real close to I-25 because I-25 is over that way and the building is over this way. And I think the apartments are pretty well taken care of, but they're cheap because of two reasons. One, they're so close to I-25, it's noisy. And sometimes it's really, really noisy. It's not just the traffic of I-25, it's the buildings that surround it. And it's also the traffic that comes from Yale, East Yale Avenue. Yeah. So, this story that takes place on January 3rd, 1979, It's concerning a man who was born on May 13th, 1956, and his name is Jack Dakota. It's not John whatever, it's actually Jack, J-A-C-K, Dakota is his full name. And the neighborhood of the apartment is in the Hollywood Hills neighborhood. And it's in southeast Denver. And again, like I've already said, it's pretty close to I-25. And I tell you, I bet it gets very noisy out there. The real name of the apartment, because I've been to this place before, about 13 and a half, 14 years ago, I was there to meet with a coworker named Josh at his apartment before we all gathered together in a big car and we drove to the picnic. And you see, the company picnic. And the company picnic, I was on a leave of absence from Tamarack Square Ace Hardware, and there was a possibility I was going to come back. And I really tried to come back in 2012, and well, unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And I'm not going to say anything more because the lady who owns Tamarack Square Ace Hardware and University Hills Ace Hardware, that's owned by the same lady, I'm not going to say anything derogatory about her. That's really not very nice. She has been far too kind to me, despite the fact she didn't take me back. I'm just not going to do that. That's really uncool. That's really unfair. Okay, so it's Las Carras, if I haven't said that before. And the job that Jack Dakota has is a PBX operator, PBX operations supervisor level 2. What level 2 means is that he's not high in ranking because he doesn't have as much experience as the other supervisor who has a little bit more authority than he does, because of the fact that the supervisor's been with the company longer and has been very good about dealing with the most difficult situations that a PBX supervisor would have to deal with. And here's another thing. I may have said this before, but I'll say it again in case people have forgotten. He was about 23, and he was born May 13th, 1956. Nowadays, he would be about 69 years old. But again, this is back on January 3rd, 1979. So, I'll get started with the story. Jack wakes up around 8:30 in the morning because he left one of the windows open because, you see, for the sake of this story, here's what was going on. At night, it was fairly hot. Yeah. You see, he turned his thermostat off, and he turned on his one of those box fans that's, bigger than this and about like that. It looks like the shape of, it's perfectly square, and it's called a box fan. He turned that on to it like either low or medium speed, and he cracked open one of the windows about that much. One by his bedroom and another one by the living room area, because he has two windows in his one bedroom, one bathroom apartment. And he went to bed at about a little after 11 p.m. after he saw something really, really good on TV. And he also turned down the thermostat because here's something that is quite rare for the first part of June. The temperature outside after midnight was 73 degrees. 73 degrees when you're in a apartment building that can get quite stuffy it feels more like 82. Yeah. And instead of getting into his jammies, he just put on his undies, and he put the quilt over his feet, and the upper part of his legs between the knees and the feet, and he just put the bed sheet over him about like this. And as he's trying to fall asleep, he's doing stuff like this because it's hot. And he reaches over to the nightstand. And he goes with a one of those little, what's called washcloth towel, because sweat keeps coming up. And finally he falls asleep. And then what happens is around somewhere around 4 a.m. the temperature, it doesn't drop a whole lot, but it drops to the point where it's in the low 50s, and it's foggy. And I mean thick, dense fog. Not the thickest, but thick. It's a little thicker than the average type of fog that goes through the air in Denver. And it's doing this really slight, it's doing this type of light rain where it's a drizzle, or what some people call gentle soaking rain. And then what happens is at about somewhere between 5:30 and 5:45, he wakes up because he's got to pee really bad. He goes in the bathroom, and he does what he needs to do. And the apartment feels cold. So what he does is he turns on the thermostat to put out about 60 to 62 degrees, and he shuts both the windows, and he crawls back in bed and he goes to sleep. And he's sleeping away until about 8:30, when he hears a lot of semi-trucks honking, people yelling and cussing at each other, and hot rods revving up. Oh man, I mean, it's noisier than hell. And then what he does, just to get just a little bit more sleep, because he's tired, He's not a heavy drinker, but on New Year's Eve, he really got blotto. I mean, he drank probably at least 4 beers, and he had probably at least 4 to 5 glasses of champagne, because unless you got an extremely high tolerance for liquor, that's really going to get you drunker than hell. And you wake up the next day with a bad, bad hangover. I mean, it feels like a raccoon's doing this inside your head. Punching away at your punch away and going bang, 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 like that, because your head's throbbing so bad. And he puts in some earplugs, and he goes back to sleep for about a little more than an hour, until about 9:30. And when he wakes up at 9:30, it's fairly quiet at first, and then he hears more honking, more semis, more engines revving up, more loud music coming from cars and trucks. Oh, because I mean, the lane, the 3 to 4 lanes that are going this way north are very busy, and the 3 to 4 lanes that would go this direction, south, are almost as busy. I mean, they're a little bit lighter. You know, the southbound lane's a little bit lighter, or the southbound side's a little bit lighter, but it's not much lighter, not by much. And Yale, on the side that goes this way and the side that goes that way, you know, east, it's busy too. It's like the majority of the population of the entire United States are traveling through the Denver metro area, or they're driving back to wherever else they live that is not in the Denver metro area, if you know what I mean, or they're driving to the airport or whatever. Gosh. Whew. And finally, after about approximately somewhere between 9:25 and 9:40, he's just like, forget it. I'm not going to try to sleep anymore. He takes out the earplugs like this. He sets them down on the nightstand. He goes over to the kitchen and he gets out some good old, he made some Tim Hortons coffee blend dark roast. Yeah. That was something he got for a gift from a good friend who does quite a lot of traveling. And after the coffee was brewed in the coffee maker, and he poured out about a 10 to 12 ounce cup of coffee and put a little bit of cream and a little bit of sugar in there. He had about 3 or 4 sips, and then what he does is he gets totally undressed, and he showers, and he shaves everything but this part here because he has a mustache, and he brushes his teeth, and he puts on his deodorant, and he blow dries his hair just a little bit because his hair is short, but he likes to blow dry it a little bit to make it turn out just right. And then he goes into the kitchen, and he gets out some thick, it's either Safeway Select or something Select bacon, and he makes some over easy eggs, and he toasts about at least 3 slices of toast that would be just regular wheat toast. You know, a fairly generic brand. Not something like Sara Lee or any of that, but or you know, something that's a little bit more pricey. And then he gets all the way dressed, and he writes down a shopping list on one of those notepads, some that look about like this. And he cuts it off, and he looks in in his pockets for pocket change, because, see, back then, you could get a RTD bus ride with a 1.5 to 2 hour pass for only, I think it was 25 cents back then. Yes, it was that. I mean, back then that was fairly expensive. Nowadays that's dirt cheap. And he waits at the bus stop that is either, because see, this is the highway, and on this side would be away from the highway. This side over this way would be on the opposite side of the highway. It would be just before the highway bridge over his head would start. Yeah. And he waits for the next 20 27, which came about 10 minutes after he showed up. And he takes the bus to Monaco and Yale. Now, I carefully looked into this before I made up my mind on the name of the grocery store that would fit in with the story. It could have actually been Safeway, but there's a good possibility that's inaccurate. It could have been A, Albertsons, B, Piggly Wiggly, C, Miller's, or D, Thriftway Pantry. I personally think it's more like Thriftway Pantry. And maybe it was Safeway, but for the sake of this story, it's called Thriftway Pantry. He goes into Thriftway Pantry, and he buys some coffee cream, and he buys some eggs, because the 2 eggs that he cooked, that's all he had left. And he buys some hamburger meat, he buys some hamburger buns, and he buys some, and this is something that just came out in the store. They're these fairly thick hot dogs. They're called jumbo jumbo beef franks by J.B. Price. Yeah. He buys those. And he also gets some toilet paper, some Kleenex, a 6-pack of bars of soap, Irish Spring, and he also gets some mouthwash, and he gets a 6-pack of Coca-Cola. And he wants to get more, but he's like, seeing how my truck is being rebuilt, the motor's being rebuilt, I really better not. It's going to be too much to carry. It's going to be too hard on me. So then he takes the cart to about register 4 or 5. He pays for everything, cold hard cash, because he's got about $60 in cash on him. I mean, nowadays, in 2025, $60 in cash really isn't that much. But back in '79, that was, you were fairly rich if you had $60 in cash and 320s. Or however it would be. A combination of 10s, 5s, and 20s. Whatever. Okay, now, he pays for the food, and he grabs the grocery bags, and he goes, he rolls them up so he can put them in his hands real good, and he walks to the bus stop, and it was a good thing that he got to the bus stop when he did, because soon after he gets to the bus stop, that's about a block away from the corner of Hamden and Monaco, he sees the bus go like this, and then like this. Gets off, and he walks up to his apartment, and it's not too much for him, but it's a little hard, because when he gets up to that flight of stairs, to see he's way up on the 3rd floor, it's tough to carry all that stuff, but he can do it. He's a strong man. He can do it. He gets up to his apartment and puts all the groceries away. And he turns on the stereo and he starts reading a 1978 issue of People magazine. Just a second. He looked at a December 25th issue that was titled on as a headline, or on the cover, 25 most intriguing people of 1978. They not only, because after looking things up, they not only talked about Kenny Loggins, Anne Margaret, Mork and Mindy or Robin Williams, Elvis Presley, Priscilla Presley, and all of that. It was quite an issue. And then he looks outside, and it's really foggy again, instead of bright and sunny. Yeah, because like I've already said before, Denver was going through one of those stranger things have happened in meteorology type phenomenons. Instead of being like somewhere between 40 degrees or colder than 15 degrees, it's hot. It was in the high 60s at least, and it felt kind of humid. And by the time this is going on, it's at least 1:30 p.m. and it's foggy, it's raining again, and there's a little bit of a wind, and the traffic on I-25, both northbound lane and southbound lane, are heavy again. Yeah. At around 1:30 p.m. to boot. I mean, it's too much. And he was just like, whatever. And that, and I really don't like to talk about this one, but he has a neighbor who's on the first floor who is about somewhere between 45 and 52. She is huge. She's about 5'10", 5'11", and she weighs over 350 pounds. Yeah. I mean, her cheeks are like this. And she's got a nice female voice, but her voice is also kind of deep because of how big she is. And he sees her rush into her apartment, and he's a little concerned. He's like, "Uh-oh, is she not feeling good?" She's feeling fine, but the window door is open, and he can hear her sit on the toilet roll and go. I mean, she's really blowing away in there. And he's just like, why me? And he goes back up to his third floor apartment. And then he just kind of laughs about it for about 5 minutes. Then he turns on the TV. And one of the things that's on TV on, I think it would be channel 2 or channel 4, is instead of a soap opera, there's a little bit of a brief news segment about what's going to happen in 1979, and what President Jimmy Carter is going to be doing. And then it cuts into a movie. After doing research, it's probably a movie starring Nick Lowe and David Edmonds, and it says Rockpile Born Fighters. It's most likely that one. Now maybe that didn't air until after January 3rd, 1979, but I think there's a good possibility that's when it did air. It wasn't on channel 2 or 4, it was on channel 6, 7, 9, or channel 12. And he's watching away at that. And after the first hour or so, he hears two cars on I-25. This is roughly about somewhere, I think it's about 2:30, somewhere between 2:30 and 2:45 p.m. And they get out, and he can hear two men violently screaming at each other after they get out of their cars because they got into a wreck. And oh my God, Jack says to himself, I'm calling Denver police. And he rushes to the phone. He goes, doo 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 doo. It's an old, it's a beige touch tone desktop phone. Yeah. And he calls them, and he reports everything that happens. And what happens is within about 2 minutes, he hears a siren blaring on a police car, and they go up the ramp, and they go over, and he goes over to the guy, and he breaks up the fight, and not both of them, but one of them gets handcuffed and taken away in a police car. And after he gets handcuffed and taken away in the police car, the other police officer comes back to him. He's all like that. And he can say, and the police officer has to say in a pretty stern tone of voice, "Don't ever do that again. I'm telling you, don't. You're going to be arrested. Do you understand what I just said?" And he says, "Yes, officer. Yes, officer. I promise I'll cooperate." "You better. Now get in your car and drive back home safely. We're going to be in touch with you later on today or tomorrow. Go home. Goodbye." Yeah. And he takes the guy that was acting the most violent and unruly. He's been arrested. And then later on that evening, there are two new girls on the second floor. It's probably 203, 204. And they're playing their music loud. And he calls the maintenance man and asks what to do. He says, "Don't worry about it." He says, "I'll handle it. I'm sick of those two girls. I'll handle it." And then about a little over 10 minutes later, he can hear this on their door. And he can hear them yell at him about how bad they're acting. And if they do that, and even though he can't hear him say it, or excuse me, I don't think he can hear the maintenance man say it, but common sense tells him at one point, he says to them bluntly, he says, look, you ever play that music that loud ever again in this apartment, you will be evicted. We will do a breach of lease, and you will be evicted, and you'll be given 48 hours to vacate the property and vacate the apartment, because this is the third warning we've given you. You're on a bad list. You better really shape up. And they do. They don't do that again. They know that's really a major no-no. And then a little after 5:30, after he's had a chance to eat a couple of hot dogs and with mustard and mustard and relish and some chips, some good old Lay's potato chips, and drink a couple of cans of Coca-Cola. He goes down to the mailbox, and in the mail is a belated Christmas card from his Aunt Sheila, and there's a belated Christmas card, and this guy's old, the man who he's getting it from his great uncle Frankie. Yeah, Frankie's about 92 at least. Yeah, he's a pretty old man. He was born in about 1887. Back in 79, that was quite a long time ago, and back in 1887, the United States was a whole different situation, a whole different pace of life, a whole different, just about everything. The Christmas decorations in the way, but who cares? And then he sees some commercials. I think it would be Downing's, Downing's TV and TV and appliances, for Sony and JVC brand new VHS VCRs costing $849 a piece. Back in those days, $849 for a brand new VHS VCR was a combination of still pretty expensive, but yet cheap. Yeah. And he was just thinking, oh, I wish this, oh, I wish that, oh, I wish this, oh, I wish that. He's thinking about it for about a half hour, and then finally just says to himself, don't want something like this. It's really not as good as you think. Looking at the VCR is going to be wonderful, but the cost of buying new VHS movies and recording stuff, it's probably going to be a pain in the neck. It's probably really going to get to you. And then what happens is a friend of his calls and asks him if he can come over. It's a friend that he hadn't seen in 2 months, because his friend was living in a different part of the United States until December 31st, 1978. And he comes, and about 20 to 25 minutes later, he hears a knock on the door. He opens it, and the guy looks totally different. He has a nice beard on his face. He didn't have long hair anymore. His hair is short. He's got nice glasses on, because before he didn't wear any glasses. And he says, "Hey, come on in." And then the two of them just really rap. And he says, "I'm really hungry. I want some pizza." It's like, "Well, okay, but I ain't got the money." He says, "I got the money. Don't you worry about it." He says, "Let me use your phone and I'll." He says, "Let me look at your phone book and use your phone and I'll order it." And I think it would probably be Domino's, and for about $6, he gets they get a medium pizza with pepperoni and mushroom, and his friend has a couple of slices, and so does Jack. And when he's done, before he leaves, he says, his friend says to Jack, he says, "Oh, that pizza, you can put it in you can keep it in the fridge, because I don't want to take it with me." He says, "I love pizza, but enough is." He says, I just don't want to mess with it. I don't want any leftovers." And they shake hands, and his friend leaves. Around 11:30, he goes to sleep, and around 3 a.m., he hears a fire truck and a police car and an ambulance. Nobody was hurt in the apartment building, but on the southbound part of I-25, there was a major car accident. 4 cars got smashed up bad. Yes. Because soon after you see the police car comes in this way, and the ambulance and the fire truck come in this way. And there's a lot to do. And then within about 2 minutes, you hear the loud blaring of a second ambulance. Yeah. And he's just sitting there looking away. And then what happens is a forensic, one of those big forensic vans comes in. And about 20 minutes later, a black body bag comes out of the forensic van. And then about 10 minutes later, you really can't see it because it's dark, even though he can see a bloody body coming out of the passenger seat of a car. Here's why. Somebody was dead. Yes. And the other 3 people, even though they're knocked out, they're still alive. And one guy wasn't hurt that bad, but he walks around with a limp. And he gets a courtesy ride from a police officer somewhere else. Now, that somewhere else could be a situation where first he goes to the police station and they ask him a bunch of questions, or they don't bother doing that. They take him to a hospital that's nearby, and he gets examined, and then they take him home. You know, the policemen do what they're supposed to do either way. And Then he goes to sleep, and he sleeps until 10:15 in the morning. And even though when he wakes up he hears a lot of noise, he slept well because he was so tired and he was so drained from seeing all this. He gets in such a deep sleep. He probably heard some things, but he was so fast asleep, heavily asleep, that he didn't actually wake up. Yep. And the noises didn't incorporate themselves into a dream. Yeah. I mean, it's happened with me before several times. I was so tired when I fell asleep that when I fell asleep, I was really out. So what he does when he wakes up is he immediately does what he did before, which is he cleaned out the coffee maker, and he makes some more of the Tim Hortons dark roast. And once it's all brewed, he pours a cup and he puts some cream and sugar in there, like he did before. And after he's had about 3 or 4 sips and he feels more awake, he goes into the bathroom, and after he's totally undressed, he showers and shaves and brushes his teeth and goes to the bathroom. And then he gets dressed. And instead of, unlike the day before, he gets dressed before he starts cooking breakfast. And then what he does is he just starts watching TV and more TV and more TV. When he said he had enough TV, he just turns the dial on his nice Pioneer receiver stereo with good speakers, and he just keeps changing music genres until he's had enough of music. And then at I'm going to say about 5:45 p.m. he gets a call on the phone. It's not work, because he knows good and well he does not have to come into work until January 6th. No, wait a minute. I take that back. January 5th. And the call is from the company that rebuilt his engine on his truck. The truck happens to be a 1976 Chevy, I think it would be called a C10. It's a square body, because the motor that was in there before wasn't worn out. It totally busted up. The crankshaft busted in 2 places, 2 pistons cracked, and and there were like at least 4 bent push rods. Yeah, and the cam was not. Excuse me. The cam wasn't cracked, but it had a lot of wear and tear on it. And what they did was they had a really good deal on some rebuilt engines, because normally back then a rebuilt engine is going to cost at least $750 to $1,000. They got this engine for $580 because the company that they got it from had so many. They really cut the price to to get them out of this shop, get them out of their warehouse and make room for other things. And the bill that Jack has to pay for this repair work, because they replaced the clutch, would be only $718.59. Yep, again, $718.59. And good old Jack, he's got over $1,100 in his savings account. So he can afford it. And what happens is when they tell him that everything's good to go and that the car was tested, that the truck was tested thoroughly, and they drove it around for over 20 minutes and put it through a lot of tests when they came back, and the motor is fully rebuilt. And he says, when can I come and get it? He says, can you get here in 10 minutes? And he says, no. He says, I'm sorry to tell you this. You're going to have to wait until tomorrow. He says, well, I was pretty much expecting that. What's the earliest time I can come in, and what's the latest? He says, come in anytime after 9 a.m., but make sure to get here before 4:45. You got that? He says, yes, I do. Thank you very much. So, what goes on is Jack reads he reads The Never-Ending Story by Michael Endie, E-N-D-I-E. And he really reads away on it until about 10 o'clock. And then he stops reading because he's done so much reading, he's had enough. And he puts the bookmark in place. He stands up, goes to the bathroom, then he turns on the TV and he listens to 9 News and 10 o'clock. And then after that he watches, I believe it would be on Channel 4. He watches the Johnny Carson show. And he watches that till the end. And a little after 11:45, he goes to bed because he's dead tired. In fact, towards the end, the remaining third of Johnny Carson, he'll stay awake for a while and then he'll do this, like at least 4 times, and then he gets to bed, and he sleeps until about 8 a.m. And he gets up a little bit before the alarm clock, and he does the same thing he did the 2 days before. And a little after 10 after 9, he gets up. No, wait a minute. He leaves the apartment. Duh. He leaves the apartment and he gets a ride from a neighbor at the apartment complex about 1 mile to where the shop is on East Evans and little past Colorado Boulevard. And he goes in, he talks to the boss, and he writes out a check for $718.59. And he takes down his driver's license and his phone number and all, and his work phone number. And then they go over to the truck and he discusses a few things with him. and then he gives him the keys, and Jack drives back to his apartment, and he sure is happy. And he reads for a little bit, and then he's got to work the 11:30 to 6:30 shift at Porter Hospital, and he does pretty good. And the thing is usually a hospital's fairly busy. On that day, it is dead slow. Not very many people are coming in to visit. Not very many people are checking out. Not very many doctors are calling. The number of calls that him and a traditional PBX operator associate get are like 17 calls. That's not a lot at all in 7 hours. That's not a lot at all. And they're just sitting there, by the PBX stations, bored. And at 6:30, he goes over to the area where he clocks out, and he gets in his truck, and he goes to, I believe there would be a Safeway on Evans and East Evans and Downey. He buys a few groceries, and then he drives back to his apartment on the 5390s block of East Yale. Well, I've done a whole bunch of talking. That's all I can say about the Jack Dakota story. Thank you, everyone, and I hope everyone has a Merry, Merry Christmas. Goodbye now. Thank you.